All right. So good afternoon, good morning, or if you're from the West Coast, good evening if you are anywhere in Europe or Asia, or anywhere else. But I think most of you are from Philly, so hello, hello, and let's start. And we have, I think, 55 minutes is what each of the sessions are. So I'm going to try to maybe show you a few things with APIs that might hopefully help, and some tools, particularly one tool that is close to my heart. So that's what we'll talk about. So let's begin. My name is Sam, and I'm a dev advocate at Progress Software. Hopefully, you folks know us for some of the things we make. Todaric and Kindy UI and Fiddler, which is what we'll talk about today. That's my social. If you need to get hold of me anywhere, really, GitHub, Twitter, SlideShare, anywhere, that's me. And a big thank you to Chris and Bill and everybody else who puts together Philly Code Camp. I wish we were meeting in person, but hopefully, soon we are maybe coming out of this pandemic mode slowly. Which again, I always start with this because the world is a weird place these days. So hopefully you are safe, and if you have friends and family who are affected by the military conflict, hopefully they are safe. And it's a bit of a humanitarian crisis, but we can all do a little to help if possible. All right, and I spoke this morning, and I don't think I had my map slide up. I always love to put this up because I actually live in Pennsylvania, but I'm like 7.5 hours away from Philly because I'm on the opposite corner of the state, northwest corner, right up by the lakes. There's a place called Erie, which is called the Mistake on the Lake because we are right on the Lake Erie. We get tons of lake effect snow, but it's okay to love Erie. We have actually shirts that we've made up that says it's okay to love Erie. But no, I'm from Erie, like this little sliver of Pennsylvania that's kind of sandwiched between Ohio and New York. It'll take me like 2 hours to get down to Pittsburgh and cut across to Philly. Or you can actually cross Pennsylvania east to west in about half an hour if you are way up north like we are. So that's where I'm at, and it's starting to be spring, so good to be here, and good to see all of you, and thanks for spending an hour with me. We live in a world where we have lots and lots of data. Maybe not, metaverse data, or maybe even, a metaverse data as well. But we have tons and tons of data. Every app, every operation is churning out data, and we have to connect the dots. And API is a way in which we share our data, right? So almost every application uses APIs, and it's not just for data, but you get the point. APIs are the interface between multiple disparate systems, and primarily the way in which we share data across platform boundaries. So APIs are important. Let me see if I can keep the chat window open here so I can see any questions you might have pop up. Okay, yeah, welcome Pennsylvania, yes. So we understand APIs are key, and developers need to work with it, and there are lots of tools. Thankfully, you might be doing .NET, you might be doing JavaScript, or PHP or Python, whatever. It's fairly consistent how you expose APIs. Things have fundamentals haven't changed a whole lot if you look back at how we do HTTP and how we do RESTful endpoints. No matter what platform or programming paradigm that you are on, it's essentially the same, right? It's data over the wire, right? So we have lots of tools at our disposal to actually build the APIs, but when we start, deploying the APIs out, having other teams test our APIs and figuring out what's wrong with it once we push it out to production, that's when some more tooling, especially network tooling, can actually help. There are times when we are, a little shy of talking about stuff, but here I'm full visibility. I am talking about Fiddler as a product because we are trying to help here. So, we make a lot of different tools. We make UI components primarily for .NET and JavaScript. And not many people maybe use our stuff that's outside of just the core, but there is a lot of stuff that's out there: reporting, testing, mocking, document processing, CMS, and a lot of productivity tools. So it's all out there for you to use. And the key thing in there is something called Fiddler, which is part of productivity. A lot of .NET developers in particular, we have kind of grown up with Fiddler over the years because this has had a long journey, and it really actually helps with APIs as well. So if you are if you're a history buff, then you might remember Eric Lawrence, who used to work with Microsoft and then moved on to Google, then spent like a couple of years with us. So he was, the first one who came up with Fiddler, and it's evolved a lot over the years. And it started out with all Windows, and that's still there. I'm here to tell you no one's moving your cheese, but it has to, catch up to the modern times. So we have actually been putting in a lot of engineering with the new evolved version of Fiddler. So what is Fiddler exactly, and what does it have anything to do with APIs? Well, let's step back a little bit, because Fiddler is a lot of different things right now for different people. If you do a search, this is likely some of the pages that you're going to land on. So it's debugging network. That's essentially what it is, and it's a proxy tool essentially. And it may or may not be a proxy all the time, but a proxy means essentially you install a tool, and every network on your machine, every network call in or out goes through that, right? That's just essentially a definition of a proxy, which is very different from, just like a dev tools in your Chrome showing you network, because it can only capture things that are in that app. This is everything on your machine can go through that. So you get a lot more visibility. So that's, essentially Fiddler, but now Fiddler comes with, a few different iterations. There's Fiddler Classic, there's Core, Cap, and Jam. And I think I have a slide, right up here, which talks about kind of the whole family. This is the portfolio. So if you are using Fiddler on Windows today, if you have been using it for the last 15 years, no one's touching it. It's yours to keep, and it's going to keep running on Windows. But just know that it's not getting as much of engineering as the other ones are, because again, we have to reimagine Fiddler for the modern times that we live in. So Fiddler Everywhere is the thing that you want to use. It's an evolved version of Fiddler, and it is actually cross-platform. So now you can actually run Fiddler on Windows, on Mac, and on Linux as well, if that's your jam. So again, almost feature parity with Fiddler Classic. There are some things that Fiddler Classic still does a little differently, but Fiddler Everywhere is consistent everywhere else. Along with that, we have a couple of different things going on. There is something called Fiddler Jam, which we'll talk about. It's so many times we will push out an app or an API to production, and then we hear from our users that it doesn't work on my machine. And you should never be in doubt as to what's going on. So this is for your first and second support tiers to figure out that what's going on the user's machine. Why can they not see what we are supposed to see? So there's a web-based solution for that, and then there's a desktop-based solution for that as well, which is called Fiddler Cap. And again, not many people know this. You can actually embed much of the network's, the Fiddler's core engine inside of a .NET app. So that's called Fiddler Core. So if you are building like a dashboard of sorts where you want to show network stack, you can just embed Fiddler Core and have all of that built in your app. So that's just a quick look at the Fiddler family, and we'll talk about what it does. I'll try to show you demos of Fiddler Everywhere, Jam, and then so on, and particularly what they have to do with APIs. So a little bit more information here on what exactly is Fiddler Everywhere. It is not just, we took a product and we made it cross-platform. And I might have a quiz for you guys to, take a look at Fiddler and tell me what you think it's built in right now. So it is cross-platform, but some of the things we really try to focus on is, of course, the core of it should work, performance should be good. And the sharing and collaboration is big, because we want this to be something you're not working in isolation. So we want this to be Wait, am I hearing somebody? If you don't mind muting your microphones. And again, we're in a Teams casual call, so please, speak up if you have a question, turn on your cameras. We're just all friends here. So we try to focus on the collaboration part of it. So you should be able to share sessions or traffic with your, friends and coworkers and be able to quickly debug. Administering things, all of that stuff is good. You do see on the left here with the, let's see, J. Kamitso, if you can mute your microphone, please. Thank you. If you look at the base features, like some of the big things that we have done in the last couple of releases will stand out. Of course, it's HTTP and HTTPS, traffic, but HTTP2 is now also welcome. We got some advanced filters which really help out with APIs, and we also have WebSocket support if your API is doing that. So again, lots of love, and we are pouring in more and more engineering every release. Like I said, a couple of things will stand out. HTTP2 traffic, we have a better getting started experience. WebSockets, capturing that, which is always a little tricky, especially, capturing web traffic if you are dealing with web apps in a browser, that's not very hard. You got multiple tools to do so. And again, we don't speak ill of competition or anything. We can all coexist. But there's DevTools, there's Postman, and they will let you do some of the basics. But nothing else is a proxy, which is so low level that you capture everything. It's actually almost embarrassing when you open up Fiddler and you see Apple and Google and Microsoft and everybody just calling home, and you just see every traffic in and out of your machine. So there's nothing quite like this. And so, yeah, all of these features, they're just essentially designed to help developers be more productive, help your support teams know exactly what's going on. So that's a quick 10-minute rundown of what is Fiddler, and let's take a look at how it helps. So any questions so far? Any questions? It's that time of the day after lunch, so hopefully you're all awake. I will have plenty of demos which might fail left or right to keep me company. And yeah, we'll keep this short and sweet. Okay, so first thing is, like I said, you'll go up here. And this is Robert Bodyhammer, who's an absolute Fiddler expert. So take a look at some of his videos. So you get the right Fiddler for you. It talks about different types of Fiddler documentation, and resources have been really worked on. But what does all of this have to do with APIs? Well, let's actually open up Fiddler Everywhere. So this is where you might see like a little blip on the universe, because while I am on a Teams call and I am sharing my screen, I'm actually swapping out my network and bringing in a proxy, which it all works. So this is Fiddler Everywhere, right? And when you first start out, you get this new screen here that kind of points you to the docs and the blogs and videos and all that good stuff. But it also has some interesting things here. Like I said, like talking about web stuff in a browser is not difficult, but how would you do stuff when you are, catering to a mobile app developer, or how would you do things for a desktop app developer, right? Those are things where you really need the network stack, and unless you had a proxy like this, you would not know. Another thing we have discovered is, based on where you work, some of your IT might not give you admin rights to your machine. So if you wanted to install a proxy that does need admin rights, so maybe you can't do that for some reason on your machine, which I hope, like if you're a developer, you do have admin rights to your machine. But if you don't, there's a pre-configured browser now, so we can only look at like one browser session where it can be a full proxy, but you don't have to actually install and make it a proxy. So there's documentation, there's some help right up here. Okay, so this is the new look of Fiddler, and I'm already logged in, so it kind of lets me in. So we have some sessions here, we have some requests here, and there's a whole bunch of live traffic, going on here. And details here and an overview here. So this may, catch you a little bit by surprise. Like, what do you think Fiddler Everywhere is written in, right? It's a desktop mobile or desktop app that you can see running natively on my Mac, and it runs the same way on Windows, runs the same on Linux. What do you think? So there's a quiz question. What do you think Fiddler Everywhere is written in? And I'll give you a hint. We dog food some of our own stuff. But right now you can see that I'm online. I don't have Wi-Fi, but I'm plugged in on a network. So you can see like all the traffic, like Docs and Microsoft and Apple, any type of OneDrive, any type of services that I'm running, it's like constantly capturing everything, right? So HTTP versions, most of it is HTTP 1, but based on some of the sites that you go to, you are going to see HTTP 2, which is actually a very nice thing. I mean, it's got lots of benefits, but like a single request and response thread between the server and the client, it can actually be reused for fetching multiple resources. So that really helps. So again, this is what it is at the core of it. And then you have a composer for you to write up whatever query you want to hit with all the visibility that goes on. So let's talk about APIs a little bit, and I'll show you a few different iterations of APIs. But I'm sure we all have, our favorite thing to go to when it comes to like APIs. One of my favorite ones is this little thing, just when you're just playing around and you need like a RESTful API to, build your mobile app, like with like a hello world or a proof of concept thing. This is the one that I go to. So it's called Json Placeholder. It's powered by JSON server, and it's really nice. It does everything that it says it will do, and it's very consistent. So they have lots of things here. They support get, read, update, delete, and so on. And you can use your own data. But right up here, if I go into these things called posts, it's going to bring back a collection of posts, and these are actually fun in Latin. So like user ID, like article posts on a website is what essentially it's like. So every post has like a title and a body, and you get like 100 of them. You can ask for another more, and so on. So this is kind of my go-to to kind of play around with this. So since we already made that call, if I go back to Fiddler Everywhere here, and one thing you notice is this gets to be a lot, right? It's not just APIs, every service is calling in. So you absolutely want to do filters, right? So if you look at the advanced filters here, there's some choices here. When some conditions are met, or any of these or none of these conditions, right? First up is your URI, your protocol, your host, your path, your method, like is it a post or a put or delete, or client IP, remote IP, body size, duration. You get a fair number of choices here, and then you get to write up your own thing, and then that becomes your fiddler that you can save. So you are not looking at 1,000 requests or responses every minute. You're looking at a specific thing. So use the advanced filters. But this one here is super simple, so I can just do a search here. If I do JSON placeholder, you're going to see that that's my request, right? So we're looking at the JSON body, which is, I may have this cached because it didn't actually make the request. So let's go to to-dos. There you go. And we come down here, there you go. So I must have had that, the posts cached somewhere, so I actually didn't make the request. So here's my JSON request going out to JSON placeholder to-dos. And if I look at the overview of what my request and response looks like, it tells me all the details, like who made that call, from where, how did we connect, and how many bytes were exchanged, what's the HTTP status, and all that good stuff. And then if I look at inspectors, this is where some of the power is. You get to see everything, like all of the headers, all of the params, which didn't have any cookies that they are setting or we are sending in, anything raw or body. And then on your response, you get to see like, this is my body. So I get like 100 plus to-do lists. So just a quick look at how some like a remote API might work. And what is nice here is I can right-click right here. Like I have a request and response that I know is working, but for me to start playing with it, I'll have to recreate this from scratch, which I don't have to. I can just go in here and I can say edit in Composer. So now I have the same request opening up in my Composer. I don't have to type up everything, and I get to see all of my headers, which is actually particularly good if you want to muck with it. Fiddler is all about the power of you being the man or the woman in the middle and changing things up and seeing how it acts up, right? So change the user agent, change the do not track, change any authentication or authorization, any tokens that you might have, anything you're sending in as a header request. You get to turn things on and off and see what it responds with, right? So you have the whole response and request, and you can keep executing it as many times as you want. So this is nice because I don't have to and I can actually by the way save this, and I can have it saved as a session, so I can go back to this right away, which is what I have here. So you can see that the JSON placeholder, I have that get posts kind of pinned. Now, one other thing is close anyways. One other thing that Fiddler does is Richard is asking, so Fiddler everywhere used instead of Postman. Oh, Richard, you don't want me to say that, do you? But yes, but again, use Postman for what it's worth, but you can know your tools, know where the differences are, what Postman cannot do versus what Fiddler can do. This we are talking about is a true network proxy. And since none of you did the quiz, I will tell you, this is actually written in Angular. It's actually using some of the grids and charts are actually using Kenda UI, which is our UI. So we are very much dogfooding our own stuff and you kind of showing it the performance. One other thing is once you are looking at an API, you want to do some things with it, see where the breaking points are. And I'm an old man, I can tell you stories over drinks if we were in person, but please have a rate limit on your API, because otherwise you're asking for like a denial of service type, like a lot of attack. So you can quickly run this thing. You can script it and you can have this fired up 1,000 times and see what it does. Or there's like a little shortcut here. So with that thing selected, notice how it's being triggered from Google Chrome, and I can change that. So I can just hit the R button on my keyboard, and notice if I just keep pressing R, it's making that same request over and over and over again. Right now, if you notice, the process is not Google Chrome, because this is actually Fiddler just replicating that that API call and just playing it as many number of times as you want. So it's and in this case they don't have the I mean, for this amount of time manually done, they don't care, but it's like 4,000 bytes pulled back on every request. We're not caching, and it's like pure JSON being pulled back on every one of those requests. So please try out your API, make sure you understand what breaks and what doesn't. Okay, so this is fairly okay and understandable from from a web perspective. This we get, but what if you were doing something else with it? So let's go back here. You see these posts here. I can actually clear my cache, and then you can actually see those posts come back in Fiddler as well. But you get like 100 posts, and let's say this is an API that I have written up, and I want to have some of the team in my company use that API, and they are not building a web app. So now I'm stuck because they don't have access to all of this nicety that I do, because they're not building a web app. So what if they were building something native? And then this is where the power comes in. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio here to show you a quick project. And I think it's this one here. Okay, so this is actually a Xamarin Forms application. This is not, the bleeding edge.NET MAUI stuff, which I can actually show you today if I have time. This is just a sample Xamarin Forms project, existing production type readiness, and it's super simple what it does. So it starts out with a constant. Notice how we are pointing to that JSON placeholder and that posts. And we have, the main page of our list is of our app is going to show a list of those, posts that come back. This is my POCO object, so I expect exactly these things coming back from my API. This is my manager object, which actually does like a get sync HTTP call, makes a get request to that post RESTful endpoint, and we want to get that data back and serialize it and show it in this list, which has just a list view. So with that, let's go ahead and run this real quick. So what I'm trying to show you is if you are hitting the same endpoint from a mobile app, unless you had something like Fiddler, you will just not have a way of debugging what's going on in that API. But since this is a proxy, it captures everything, and including mobile traffic. And while it's coming up, one other thing I don't think I will have the time to show, and maybe I can try. But one thing is, it's not just simulator, which is obviously running on the same network that my computer is on. But like if you have like physical devices, I can plug this phone in, or in fact I don't even have to plug plug this in. As long as my phone and my computer are on the same network, and you have to open up a proxy thing on your phone so that it goes through the Fiddler, proxy, then you can capture traffic from your devices directly inside of Fiddler, which is wonderful. So here we have the app that has the same 100 requests that we got from the web. But now if we go back to Fiddler, and let's see if we, because since that was cached, we may not find a good way. All right, so yeah, so this last request, so let's see, I mean, it probably didn't get anything back. It's $5.99, and it looks like this was, served from cache, but we still got the request, right? So here's an HTTP 1, but you notice the process here, right? This is not Google Chrome. This is XF Goes Places, which is actually, if I go look at it, that's just the name of my app, right? So here we have, a native app, but I mean, we got 0 bytes back because it's it's cached somewhere else. But if you make a different request, you will see it. So it absolutely does capture things from a mobile device, and we have documentation on how you can enable this on Android as well as on iOS or any other type of app. As long as everything is going through the proxy, you get to see everything, which is really good. Okay, so let's go back, and you can see Microsoft Teams and Visual Studio, everybody calling home. It's fun to see. If you wanted to see what your employer is looking at out of your machine, any calls they're making, you can run Fiddler and you can see what's going on, which is fun. Okay, so let's talk about one other thing here. Let's talk about different API. And I'll show you what that means. How much time do we have until 1:55? So we got another, we got time. We got another 30 minutes or so. Any questions here, folks? While I'm doing more, any questions? Let me know. I'm right here. Okay, I want to show you something that I was showing off a little bit when we did the Maui talk this morning. I want to go back to some other type of APIs, like simple APIs. So I'm going to open up this project here that I have, and this is a minimal API in .NET 6. So we don't need that. Out of the gate, you will notice that our CS proj is super simple. It just says, hey, I'm an app that's running on .NET 6, and I have C#10. Features, I have implicit usings, I have global usings, so my app is super simple. It's just the .NET generic host builder. We are creating the builder, and you don't need this if you're not serving up Razor pages, but I'm just serving up JSON here, so I can map any URL to functions. So it's kind of like the CRUD operations we had in web API. So create, update, delete. You got the same things, map post, map get, map delete. But it's just super simple way of spinning up an API. In this case, like we are doing an app run, and we are returning hello world and hello name of the person and so on. Makes it super nice to play around with. So let's say you are building this API locally, and we want to check and make sure everything is good about it. So we have this running on localhost 7197. So let's go look here to localhost 7197. So my hello world is up, and if I do hello, I think there's a API thing on Philly. I think we were accepting a name. So yeah, it says hello Philly because of this line of code here. Hello name. See that name? That's a parameter that we're passing in, and we can get person, we can get to do, and all the good stuff. So this is just a super simple API. There you go. So we get that. So this is fine when you were just creating it. And if you look at Fiddler, and if I go back to localhost, you'll see that I do have these exact calls. Like that's hello Philly, that's localhost 7197. See, now automatically you get like nicely formatted JSON, and you get to see what's being sent. And what's the user agent, what type of mode we were in when we made the any type of compression that we might have. Everything is captured right there. So if you're doing localhost, you can easily take a look at and make sure your APIs are nice and they're all working. Now, what if you were you wanted to open this up to somebody else. Let's say you are working with a team where somebody else is wanting to use your API while you're building it, right? So you want that visibility. So one of my favorite tools to do so is this little thing called Ingrock. So what it does, it just, it sounds a little scary, but it's not. It punches a little hole through your firewall and says, here's a public, URL that translates to your local host. So somebody else might actually call this. So, they have, paid and unpaid versions of their service, but their simplest thing is it's free and it's really nice. So what I can do here is while this service is running on localhost, I can actually go up and pull up another window in which we can spin up their service. So let's do, I have it in my applications directory. Let's make sure if I do an Ingrock. Yeah, so I have Ingrock installed, so I have the command line thing. And what I can do is applications Ingrock. So we want to open up an HTTP tunnel into our localhost, right? So let's copy that thing, localhost, that. We want to copy that and that. So we want to open an HTTP tunnel to HTTPS because, again, I'm running ASP.NET on .NET 6. It has the default dev certificate, so it is HTTPS. So I'm saying open up that particular port on my local host. So it comes around and says, yeah, this is your port forwarding. So if I can grab that whole thing, and if I go up to my browser now, and if I do this, you get the big Chrome red window to say, oh, this is not good, but it's fine. We can still visit, and you get the hello world, right? So it's the same API, same thing that we are calling, right? So with that, I can now hand off this API or this URL to somebody else who's on my team, and they can hit my local host. Question here, Pingwang, is it possible to run Fiddler on the server side or integrate with applications that capture logs and later we upload those logs back to Fiddler? Yes. So Ping, give me 5 minutes. I'm going to show you a few different options and how you can enable that. So great question. Just give me 5 minutes to cover a few more things, and I will get to that. So back to me writing an API. I'm on localhost, and I have this API that I'm sharing, but now I have it on a on a URL that you can publicly hit. So let's go and look at another project here. Let's make it bigger. I think this was something I was doing in the morning, if you were in my .NET MAUI talk. But let's do a .NET MAUI app. Now, this will be a desktop application. We looked at mobile. This will be desktop. So here we want to go into API. Let's make things a little smaller. It's too big. Here it's running on localhost. Now let's change that to our URI, which we got from Ingrock, right? So now we have a desktop application, but this one is one that's, it's a desktop app, but it's running on .NET MAUI, and it opens up a Blazor web view, which gives me a nice web view interface to render my, web stuff like Blazor or Angular or React or anything else like that. And this is API.razor. This is a straight up, Blazor component that I'm writing here, but I'm bringing in some serialization, and I'm making a request out to my API, which is local, but it's exposed through Ingrock. And you can make this API call from any type of app, mobile, desktop, web, it's all the same. So I'm going to save that, and I want to run this build. I can run this on iOS, but I want to run this on Android. No, I want actually on Mac Catalyst, so you can see this running on desktop as well. So we'll give it a second, and as it does the build, talks to Xcode. Mac Catalyst is essentially iOS app running on your Mac desktop. It's building, thinking. It's Friday for Visual Studio as well. Well, in fact, there is no Visual Studio here. This is all command line tools, but it's trying to build. And in the meantime, Fiddler is running. So if I did my code right, I should be able to go in. And so this is a Maui app, right? This is a native Mac desktop app now running as Mac Catalyst, but it's bootstrapped with .NET Maui, and it also uses Blazor. So all of the normal Blazor stuff. This is the Blazor template that all works. And if I come to this API here, you see that first name Elon Musk. That is because we made that call out to that API endpoint, and it eventually made it down to localhost. Now, what is nice is while it's all running, this one here must have grabbed it. So if we open up Fiddler and we go look at Ingrock, oh, that's a lot of stuff here for Ingrock. I want to find the last thing, which looks like this one here, person Elon Musk. Yeah. Yes, okay. So you see that that's the same API call that we made from our web browser, but now it's through that Ingrock and still hitting localhost. But again, notice the process here. It's not Chrome, it's Maui Blazor, which is like literally this app called Maui Blazor. So what I'm trying to say is no matter what type of app you're building, be it IoT, be it mobile, be it desktop, all types of native apps, they can all go through Fiddler and give you full, access to your APIs, and you should not be in any doubt as a developer as to what's going on under your network stack. Okay, so let's stop a few things here. Yes, I can, stop the Ingrock if I have the right tools there, and I can stop this. Let's show you one more thing here that is kind of really fun. Let's go here. So I have a quick little ASP.NET app that is hosted in Azure, and it's using something called SignalR, which is a real-time network stack. So you can use it from .NET, you can use it from JavaScript, and it essentially acts as a hub wherever it's hosted, and then it just broadcasts messages in real time, which is really nice. So I have a quick little app here, but one thing to note is when I'm connecting to this app. So here my browser is a client, but it's actually hosted in Azure. So when I connect to it, it realizes that it's a modern browser and it can actually talk over WebSockets, which is a low-level handshaking thing. You do a handshake once. If both of us can speak the same language, then we can start a dialogue. And once you get into that mode, you don't see any more traffic because there is no HTTP call. It is just one pipeline over which everything is going on. So let's take a look at this so far. And I'm going to close this and let's go to SignalR. There we go. So I should be able to start getting some of the data here. So you see that we are starting out making the connection here, and there are a couple of 200, and there are a couple of calls with options. So essentially, Azure, the server, and my browsers are trying to do a handshake and figuring out what language can we speak to. Because if they cannot do WebSockets, then they fall back to long polling, then they fall back to server sent events, like a few other things for us to do real time. But since it is a modern browser, you notice this last request here. You see that green dot and that outlet type connection. Let me see if I can show you the tooltip. Oh, there you go. So it says a tunnel is being used for WebSocket traffic. So sure enough, if I look at that, that's a connection upgrade to WebSockets, right? And everything is right down here. Beyond that, if I do this like a user one said hello, if I keep doing send and send and send, you see it real time, but there are no more requests because there are not HTTP requests anymore. We have done the handshaking. It's a true bi-directional, full duplex communication channel, and there are no more requests. It's just all happening over WebSockets. So there is no visibility into this until you had a tool like this. So if I go into my messages, that's where you see the server and the client. You see that user one somewhere. You see that user one saying hello. I'll do another one here. User 2 said hola, right? And send. User 2 says hola is right there. And user 2 says hola is right there. So messages, they are being tracked right there. And this is flattened and done over JSON, so we can show you the traffic. So this is great because it shows you everything that's happening. This is over this is still Google Chrome. But I actually have another app, if I can show you. Yeah, let's open up another app here. Again, back to the thing that if you are building native apps, you really don't have any visibility. Now you can. And yeah, I mean, you will see that it does like, like a heartbeat type ping to make sure the connection is live and running. So here is, let's change where it's running. Here is another, mobile app written in .NET. So it's Xamarin Forms, but it's actually using SignalR as a client, and it's connecting up to the same app, right? So if I go ahead and run this now, it's going to pull up my simulator one more time. But here's another, native app that connects to the same endpoint, but it's, you're accessing that API over, like from a native app as compared to the web. So let's wait for this to come back, and you have the same interface, and I can say iPhone says hi, right? And I do a send. It's right there. Go back to our browser, iPhone says hi, it's right there. So it is real time. But again, since that was native, I would totally miss it if I didn't have a tool. So now if I'm looking at the same tunnel, notice how I didn't change which request that I'm looking on. Yeah, this one here, you can barely see it, but if I scroll a little bit, maybe. And let's see, with my resolution, like I can't like actually maximize it, but you can see it right there. See that iPhone says hi. So over the same bridge, we are now talking over native and from the web browser. So the WebSocket visibility is really nice because it just shows you everything. Okay, so that's just a quick look at a modern WebSocket type communication. So let me close down a few things, and we'll talk about some other stuff. Any questions, by the way, so far? And Ping, I haven't forgotten about your question. I will get to that right now. So let's close a couple of these things. Okay. What else did I want to say? Oh, and by the way, like when you are in Fiddler, you can change up a couple of things here. When you are looking at Fiddler HTTPS, you need to trust a root certificate. This also comes down to you not having admin rights on your machine, which I really hope you do, because that's our way of opening up that HTTPS packet. Connections, you can that's your listening port. You can change it. You can enable HTTP2 support right there, which actually I have it turned off. So which is why if we did have any HTTP, it didn't capture it. Gateway, these are important things, proxy configurations if you're coming in from iOS or Android, and you can make this dark. I am really not a dark theme person, but if you want, like I can make this dark blue. It's actually fine when you're like late night. It's actually more soothing on your eyes, and it actually plays nicely into accessibility. But for demonstration purposes, I think like the light one is fine. So take a look at the settings and make sure it's working for you. So one other thing I want to show you now is, if this will go away. Okay, is some of the other parts of using Fiddler. So if we go up here to some of the Fiddler types, let's see if we have it here. Fiddler everywhere, solutions. We kind of break this down. Like, what do developers have to gain if they are using Fiddler? Like mocking requests, debugging issues, composing and testing requests. Oh, and actually that brings me to one other thing that I wanted to show you. So on this thing of mocking requests and composing and fiddling with the requests, here's something else you can do. So let me go up here, and in here is one more tab up here that says rules, and you can have a rule for anything. But this one here is one rule. Remember, we went up to this URL first when we started. This was Json Placeholder, and I went to all the posts, and these are nicely they probably have like entity framework type or some sort of an ORM backing it up. So I can actually, oops, didn't want to do that. I can go to that's the whole list of 100 posts, and then I can go to the first post, and I can go and so on. So it's nice and clean. But what if you wanted to have a special rule? Like, let's look at this dummy hello world rule. So if I open it up, what it's saying is, if you make a request to Json Placeholder, and if you ask for the fifth JSON object, I'm not going to give you the fifth object. Instead, I'm going to come in and actually manually, I'm being the man in the middle. I'm saying you're making a request to a third-party URI, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just return a hello world, right? Or I can do any of these other things, like I can update the request body, I can, mark your session, I can update parameters, I can, give you a predefined response, or I can do any of these things like delaying your request, which is great when you're doing an API. Let's just say somebody's using your API from a mobile app and they have bad internet, or they're kind of walking into a plane. So how does your app handle like degraded traffic, and what's the experience like? What if you want to hold back some JavaScript files or some CSS? What's the experience like? So you can do all of that from rules. So in this case, I already have the rule. So what I have to do is turn this thing on. Okay, so I turned it on, and with that, unless I already have things cached, so let's see if this will work. So 2, yes, I can get to 2, but with that rule on, I should not be able to get to 5. Yes, you see that? So when I ask for the 5th element, it says, no, I have a rule that says I need to give you a manual response and give me hello world, right? So this is a great way for you to muck with your API and see what happens when you change things. And maybe you want to, if certain conditions are met, maybe your API behaves a certain way, and there is no way for you to test these things unless you have, an easy rule like that to get around to. Now, let me show you one more thing here. I'm going to turn it off for a second, and you can do this on any public API that you want to hit. But up here, I have another rule here that says no Twitter videos. So let me open up Twitter. Okay, so when you do that, there are lots of APIs that you are calling into, and a lot of these you see these like auto playing videos. You have these in your timeline all the time, right? Any media just auto plays. But turns out Twitter has their their preferred ways of storing any of these things, videos when somebody uploads, and that's what I'm using here. So I go in here and it looks like this video that twimg.com amplify video. This is the URL or this is the API they hit for most of those auto-playing medias, right? And on this one, I'm saying, no, just gracefully close it. Like we're not going to play any auto, playing media, right? So we're going to save that and we're going to turn this rule back on. Now, I'll go back to Twitter here, or actually I can just go to like, let's say, explore. So now you'll see my experience is some of it may be cached, but let's see if we have any videos. Yes, right there. See that? How the experience is, fast deteriorating because we shut off any auto playing media. And again, based on the URLs that they're hitting, some of them might still play. Like the images are still fine, but any of these like animations are kind of shut down. So that's just a quick and easy way for you folks to kind of play around with some of these APIs. Now, back to Ping's question of how to know when things are going wrong. Once you have your API deployed, what's it going wrong? And it's nothing to do with just APIs in particular, but any web app or any desktop app per se. You can do a few things. Let's talk about web first. So let's say I'm a user and I'm using your app, which is calling into your APIs, and I'm saying something is not working. And we have, there's a lot of back and forth with your support teams and they try to capture what's going on. Well, now there are two ways on which if you're running on desktop and if you have a user who is open to running a quick little app, then you can capture the traffic. Or if it's a web app, then you don't even have to have them install anything. There is this little thing up here that I have on my browser. It's called the Fiddler Jam, and it's a Chrome extension, right? So what I have to do is turn on this Fiddler Jam. So it's telling me, hey, I'm about to capture a bunch of things as a user. You don't need to know any of the technical details, but if you are, let's do capture again. So if you want, I will show you that this is all the stuff that I'm capturing, and you can turn some things off, right? If you don't want it, capture videos, capture screenshots, console, masking cookies, disabling the cache, all of that. You can turn things on and off. But let's say I am, a naive user. I don't care about any of that. And by the way, this is sensitive, so we are careful, as to how we do this. So let's go to CNN. So I'm going to start the capture here. And I'm just speaking on CNN because it's right there on my, in my bookmarks. But the fact is we are now trying to pull up CNN, okay, or any popular website for that matter. It's a lot of requests. To pull up a single web page, this is what the modern web is. It's just a ton of requests in which looks like something is host. Hold on, let's try that again. Oh, there it is. So it's slow and it's loading up. I'm not sure if it's my browser or something else is missing. Okay, well, you see that blinking dot. Maybe maybe it has something going on in Fiddler Everywhere that's stopping it. But let's just say like this is your site, and maybe it is simple. It didn't have all the graphics, but say that's it. Okay, so I'm going to stop the capture right here, and even in that, it's captured like 92 different sessions, and I can say get link. So at this point, what it's trying to do is I did allow it to, capture all the things. So it's uploading. It's still like 11 megabytes of stuff. And if CNN fully loaded up, it's like it's a lot. It's a lot of data that it needs just to pull up a single site, which is true. So of any modern website. So I'm going to copy the link here. So now it's a browser extension, and you're going to ask your user to give you that link. That's all there is, right? So now as a support technician, you open this up and you see what that URL is, and this is getting sucked up into the cloud, and it's saved for you for like 7 days, I think, and then it's all password protected. If you want it, it can mask out anything that is sensitive, and it's going to think for a second. And maybe I have got something blocked on my network, so it's taking some time. Let me close this down for a second. Okay, there we go. So it was just a little slow. So what you see here is that whole session, right? What did the user do? So you notice that I started out having that Twitter tab open, right? And then I went to CNN. So if I play this, like it's capturing screenshots, like you will see that me going to CNN, and as the video moves, it actually knows exactly what the user action is. Like you did this and you did that. So while it's loading up, it's actually moving things forward here as well. So it's like 92 plus sessions that it captured while it was trying to, if I keep moving this forward, you can see that while CNN was coming up, like it moved the records, and so the requests and the screenshots, they are kind of in sync. So you have full visibility of what the user did, right? And then you hit this little button here that says open in Fiddler Everywhere. So now maybe your first or second tier of support comes in, and it's legitimately a problem with your API or your app, and you have that full traceability from the user's desktop all the way into Fiddler Everywhere, and now they just showed up right here as my jam log. So this is not my traffic. This is traffic from my user for their saved session. So now I can open up and I can see exactly where or what they were doing on my app and on my API, what failed and what worked. So it gives you that full visibility. That is nice. So to Ping's question, you can see that I can, for a user, I can have them run Fiddler on a little browser extension, or I can have, if they are on Windows, then I can have them run a little Windows desktop app, which captures all types of traffic, because the extension, like this one, is as nice as it is, it's only for browsers, right? So if you want to run, if you want to capture mobile or desktop traffic, then you have to have the desktop app for them to run. So that's my way of getting all the info into Fiddler Everywhere. Can I run Fiddler Everywhere server side? Yes, yeah, there is nothing stopping it, stopping you, you can script out some things as well. Logs back to Fiddler desktop version. So I actually did show you like how we are bringing those logs back into Fiddler desktop. So I hope I'm answering your question. If you have any more details you want to know, please let me know. But I'm noticing I'm already at time here, but what I'm trying to tell you is there is a lot of help in terms of what your dev teams do, what your QA teams do in terms of analyzing network traffic, diagnosing network connections and what the how it behaves, rule builders and saving and sharing sessions, and also what do your support engineers do to capture network and figure out what is wrong with your app before it kind of comes to your developers, which is critical dev hours that you're spending. So hopefully you get a sense of what Fiddler is and what it can do, and the kind of things it can help you with APIs. So I'm going to stop right here and let me go to the next screen so you have my my social handle one more time. But let me stop here. Thanks. Looks pretty cool. Thank you, Ming. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to turn on your mic. Any questions? Does this sound like something that might help with your APIs or your web apps, your mobile apps, your desktop apps? It's all out there for you to try. A question that we get a lot is, when it comes to some of our UI tools, that's DevCraft, while Fiddler is a subscription model. And again, Fiddler Classic, if you want to use it on Windows, that's free, but this takes a lot of engineering. So it's just a small drop in the bucket for most enterprises, but it is on a subscription model. So that's me, talking about APIs. I appreciate all of you spending an hour with me. Hopefully you have a great rest of your afternoon or evening. And thanks for hanging out. And yeah, thanks for being here at Philly Code Camp, for all the organizers to bring us together. We wish we were in person, but at least we get to hang out virtually, right? Any more questions from you folks? Are we all good? Okay, looks like we're good. Yeah, thank you all, and I'll see you all folks around, and thanks so much again. Bye-bye.